Welcome to episode 229 of Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Bielanski. I guess there's no secret this week, Ryan, because I put you up on the tube shot right away, and your name's right there.
Nice.
We're still working on the lighting, folks, and if I were to do it the normal way, I would look like that, which is way too bright. So we're going to do it the abnormal way, and that's how we're going to do it. Ryan Cheek, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great. You look like you're in some like rustic mountainside location.
Yeah, I'm basically on vacation out here in Colorado. We do rent a pretty neat property. It's a ranch, so I'm in like a log cabin, which isn't too unfamiliar for me being from the mountains of North Carolina, but it feels a little more Colorado-ish, I guess you could say.
There you go. So let's figure this out together here. It's June. You're in Colorado, near a mountain. Pikes
It's a big
Peak?
mountain. Yeah.
It's great to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me back out.
So I usually start the show by asking people, how did they get started in this crazy sport that we love? But we've already answered that because this is like your third time on the show. So we're going to ask the question a little differently this time. How did you get mixed up in Pikes Peak?
Well, I think if you dream about it long enough, it will happen.
Okay.
But there are angels among us. And for me, that is Scott and Susan McMillan. I do my social media, and I guess they caught wind of it, me being a hill climber from the Appalachian Hill Climb series. And we both were at PRI in Indianapolis in 2023, and they sent me a Facebook Messenger like, hey, would you like to have a meeting? And I didn't know who they were. They gave no other clues to what the meeting was. And I was like, started, totally creeping on them, checking out their stuff, see what was going on. And I was like, I wonder if these people, what if this company wants to go to Pikes Peak and maybe they want me to drive for them. So, I was like, yeah, we definitely are going to have a meeting. And then that was the question. We met in the Indianapolis Convention Center, and they were like, hey, would you like to drive our American cross cart at Pikes Peak? And yes, I just immediately said yes. I didn't ask any other questions. I didn't do anything else. I said yes. Anything to get me to Pikes Peak, I will do. So that's kind of how it happened.
Right. So there's a long history of SCCAers involved in Pikes Peak. I know Randy Popst has done it. There's been several others. What is in your from last year? I mean, you're not a rookie anymore. When you were there last year, what's the kind of background of most of the people who do Pikes Peak?
There is a lot of return people. Last year, I think, was one of the biggest years for rookies. Like there was a larger number than normal, but having followed Pikes Peak for so long, I get out there on practice days and then of course race day, but I'm seeing all these big names that I've been seeing. So it's a lot of repeat people. I think once Pikes Peak gets in your blood and your soul, like you don't ever want to stop doing it. Like you might have life obligations, but I think you're always thinking about coming to Pikes Peak and racing it again.
Once you get in, is it easier to get in again?
I don't have the answer for that. I think that if you come and, once you're in for your first time, your rookie year, and you obey the rules and you put on a good show and you do your best, I do think that plays a role in you coming back. But, it's a committee, there's tons of people putting in their applications. It's a board of directors and a committee that is looking over all those applications. And I don't know what they're looking for, but, so I was very grateful to come back a second year because I didn't know if they were going to let me or not.
So there's many people in the club might not know about all of our hill climb stuff. A lot of it's kind of based in the Northeast and down into North Carolina where you're at. Not a whole lot of hill climb that I see in other parts of the country. How well does SCCA Hill Climb prepare you to go do Pikes Peak now that you've done it once?
I can tell you that the Appalachian Hill Climb series, particularly, we currently we've had three races or three hill climbs, and now we have added fourth. I haven't got to do that. It's happening we have an inaugural one happening in October in Kentucky. But the three that have been ongoing for the past few years, I really think each one kind of represents a different section on Pikes Peak. You have Pineville, Kentucky, which kind of represents the lower sections, a little more high speed. There are some switchbacks. And then you have Norton, Virginia, which has a lot of really tight switchbacks that kind of represent the middle section, the W's of Pikes Peak. And then you have the Dragon Hill Climb, which is in its like 14th or 15th rendition now. It's one of the longest southeastern running hill climbs, but it's so bumpy and it's also kind of high speed as well, which really translates good to the upper section of Pikes Peak. So honestly, I feel that the SCCA Appalachian Hill Climb Series is probably one of the best hill climb series that you could do to try to prepare for Pikes Peak.
Now, Pikes Peak is part of a hill climb series in Colorado, right? And it's not affiliated with the SCCA.
I believe Pikes Peak is a totally independent race, and it is not an SCCA backed race. Pikes Peak International Hill Climb is a nonprofit. I don't think a lot of people know that. But no, it's just one race every year. So, pretty crazy out here. But there is a hill climb association in Colorado, the Colorado Hill Climb Association. And they have a lot of hill climbs out here. Most of them are on dirt. They're pretty crazy. And you can see Pikes Peak hill climbers on them, like Jeff Swart. You can see Cody Bashall. It's like, you're going to see a lot of people. And I'm actually going to be running one next weekend. I'll be doing a dirt hill climb with the Colorado Hill Climb Association just for fun. I'm out here. They invited me, like, let's go. Let's do this.
So this is going to run the couple days before Pikes Peak. So the dirt hill climb you're going to do, is that the weekend before or the weekend after?
It's the weekend before.
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
So it would be the 15th, 16th, I believe, or 13th, I don't know.
Got it. Are you going to do that in the cart, in the buggy?
No, I'm not actually. American Cross Cart. So they have the Pikes Peak Hill Climb cart that I'm running, but they've been in development with a dirt cart. So they're actually bringing out a dirt specific cross cart for me to race on the Colorado Hill Climb.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm pretty stoked. I don't drive on dirt. I barely drive in the snow, so it's going to be an adventure.
Very cool. So you went last year. Last year you were a rookie. First time for anything has always got lots of challenges. What did you learn the first year? Well, first of all, let's talk about how the event works out. Is it a couple day event? What's the schedule kind of like?
So, beginning the Monday before race day. So it's basically a whole week. Monday is tech. You've got to go downtown Colorado Springs, and tech is the most nerve-wracking tech I've ever been through. They want to ask you a million questions. They look over all your safety equipment, including your race suit and all your helmet and all your gear, and it's just nerve-rattling. And you're not guaranteed to pass tech, so that's a lot. But we made it, so that was good. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you are assigned a section on Pikes Peak, and you will get to practice each one of those sections on one of those days. But you've got to be on the mountain by 3 a.m. You are behind the wheel, hopefully running up the mountain by 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then you are headed off the mountain by 8:30 a.m. all those days. And then Friday is an optional practice day, which they will assign you a section. Usually, if you are having trouble with the section, you might be able to ask them to move you, but I don't know about that. And then Friday night is a fan fest. Saturday is load-in day, and then Sunday is race day, and you are back on the mountain, about 4 a.m., lower paddock, and just waiting for the race to start.
So you're on the mountain at 3 a.m. You're off by what time during the week?
8:30 or 9 a.m.
Why is that?
Because it is a state park, it's a big tourist attraction. So they want to open it back up to everybody to come visit. You only get maybe three or four good runs on each of the section during your practice days. And it is so fast paced. You make a run, you get to the finish of that section, you wait for everybody else in your group to finish that section, you run back down. Maybe you have time to switch tires, maybe you don't, and then you're back in line running back up. Like, there is not a lot of time. It is so fast paced. You get a very limited amount of runs during those practices, and you're only running one section that one morning.
Do you take video of each of those practice runs so you can then go back and study it?
I do take the video. Last year being my rookie year, we were not so much on focusing on extracting the most performance from every run. It was more about, how am I feeling? How is the vehicle running? What is the feedback on some adjustments we might need to make? So we were definitely focusing on a debrief right after the run, each run. And sometimes at the top, I had my phone, or, at the end of a run, I had my phone and I was just jotting down notes of like how I felt that the kart was feeling, things that I thought might need to be adjusted. And then I was also sitting there trying to take in that I just run a section of Pikes Peak. So it was a lot.
Yeah. Does that mean the approach this year might be a little bit different?
This year is completely different. It is almost apples to oranges for preparation and game plan. Coming back your second year, you kind of know what you need to do. Well, you really know what you need to do better. I do think that every year returning, you're going to know more and more of what you need to do. But this year's a lot different. This year, the kart is going to be a lot better prepared. So it might be a lot more of, where can I gain some time? Where can we extract a little more performance out of the kart?
Right. Tell us a little bit about how last year went. I know there were some kart. Is it a kart? Is it?
Yeah, so I tend to just refer to it as a kart. It is a cross kart. That is, it's like a coupe or a sedan or a truck, or it's a cross kart. Like that. That's what it is.
So if you look at it, it's kind of a cross between a kart and like a sprint car or a midget almost, the way the cage looks.
Yeah, it is super wild. I can tell you that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is going to be very different. But in Europe, they're very, very popular, and they don't quite look the same as this one. This one is designed and crafted by American Cross Kart, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's kind of neat to see over here in the States. You don't see many of them.
I'm hoping, I'm not hoping, we'll get some pictures and some video to put up over this so that people could see exactly what it is we're talking about. So tell us about race day last year.
So last year, race day was super exciting. That is the one time that you are in paddock with every person that is going to race up Pikes Peak. So a lot of nerves. It was unseasonably warm. There were a ton of delays. When I finally was able to run, it was later in the afternoon. My nerves had gone, up and down, up and down. Like, I had just been feeling every emotion all day. I knew that the kart going in, based on our practice week prior, that there was going to be a lot of modulation and being able to work with the vehicle that I had. Like, we knew there were some symptoms and some things going on, but they were manageable. And so when I lined up at the start, I felt really good. I really had a game plan. And when they dropped that green flag, I rolled off the clutch and into the throttle, and the kart died. And it died 3 times.
Oh.
And then the 4th time, I was able to get it going, and I just was trying to figure out what to do. So I'm riding the clutch. I had never felt that. that was not a symptom we had had at all through practice. But once it got going, I had that one moment before it got going. I was like, should I just not go? Can I not go? But I was like, one more time. If it starts, we're going to go. And it started, and we were able to leave the line, and I was able to pass under the start arch and some sort of speed. It was ridiculously slow. And I realized really quickly that I could not full throttle. I could not half throttle. I was, barely a quarter to eight throttle, especially on the lower section. So I just really worked on tying the turns together, carrying as much speed as I could, which is just racing in general. But I really had to focus on that because I knew I needed to just focus on carrying speed. The cart wasn't going to be able to dig itself out of a turn. I will tell you that as I got through the W's and I was coming almost to Devil's Playground, the cart was really coming into its own. I had never felt it run so well. I came through the crowd at Devil's Playground and I just had a smile on my face, like, we're gonna make it. It's running so great. And I even took the opportunity to look out the right side of my window net at all the crowd and just like taking that moment. Cause I mean, we weren't like going super fast, but it was running really good. And I was like, we're going to make it. And two turns later, I was digging out of, a tight right-hander at bottomless pit, and the cart just was not having it. And all of a sudden I heard a big pop and I saw a lot of smoke, and then I heard a lot of liquid. And I kept my throttle I kept the throttle pegged. Like I was like, no. And I realized really quickly that we were not going to make it. And that was as far as we were going to go on race day. It was pretty heartbreaking for sure.
So
and then I immediately thought about creating another delay after a huge long day of delays. Like immediately I was like, oh my gosh, I just caused another delay. So it was a wild moment for sure.
I bet. So what was the issue with the car when they finally started looking at it?
So we were having some fuel starvation issues. We were having oil price. Like there was just a lot of things that it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff. So, it was wild.
So when cars go to different parts of the country to race, there's a lot of things that play into making them go safe. I know altitude obviously is something that, when IndyCar would go to Denver, they would have to, deal with the mixtures and everything. But in that particular case, once you get it dialed in for that altitude, the altitude then doesn't change. So you're starting in what is it, a 4,000, 5,000 foot difference from the start to the finish?
Yeah, I think we start around 9,000 and we finish at 14, so about 5,000 feet.
So how hard is it to get the car so that it works at 9,000 feet and at 14,000 feet?
That is a very in-depth question. So in like a regular car like that Ford would manufacture, it's going to run at the beach and it's going to run at the top of Pikes Peak. You're just going to notice that there's like a power loss. Now, being a racer at Pikes Peak, there's ECUs that you're going to take into different elevations, and the tuner can work into some tuned that will change as it goes up in elevation when you have a really good tuner. And I do this year. I'm so excited. I got Fuel Tech, so shout out to Fuel Tech.
Nice. Is that a tune that you change on the steering wheel, or does it do some sort of like voodoo magic?
I think it's voodoo magic.
Okay.
I'm still learning. I'm pretty sure it's voodoo magic. We'll find out here in a few days. About the time this is airing, I will know if it's voodoo magic or if I got to start pushing buttons on the dash.
That's pretty cool. So did you fangirl anybody in the pits?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Definitely Jeff Swart. And I don't really get to see him on practice days. I only got to see him on race day. Rob Dahm was there, who is not a huge Pikes Peak guy, but he's a huge celebrity YouTube guy, and
Yeah.
my photographers absolutely they're Mazda people, and so they were geeking out. I was geeking out with them. Honestly, Catherine Mead is a name that you're not going to hear a lot, but she's been racing Pikes Peak for quite a few years now. And I met her at the top in 2023 when I was volunteering. And she was like one of the only women that were racing. So I was just excited to now be racing with her. Catherine Legg was in my practice group. So I'm like, geeking out that she's there. Uh, Rob Holland, Paul Dolan, like just
Yeah.
so many. Yeah, I just geeked out the whole time. And then Laura Hayes was there, and I only saw her on race day. And then I got to see her when she came back down because I was broke down on the side of the road, and she came back down and she had the checkered like flag. So I knew that she reset or she won her class, but I didn't know she reset the record. So
Wow.
yeah, I still geek out. Like I'm still geeking out now.
So, as a rookie, do any of the teams or any of the drivers kind of try to take you under their wing and give you a little mentorship, or are you kind of on your own?
Absolutely not. No, the fellow competitors up here, men and women, are super nice, super kind. Definitely want to do everything that they can do for you. I'm in the open wheel class, which is one of the oldest. It is the oldest class running at Pikes Peak, and I have names like Cody Baschultz and Rodney O'Malley, and so when they walk up to you and they're like, "How are you doing? How's it going?" Especially after one of our first runs on practice day, Rodney O'Malley came up to me. He's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "That was a crazy," So, and then I had Yuri who was running. Can't remember the name of his team, but Yuri K, long time uh, alumni up here at Pikes Peak, just asking me questions, telling me stuff, giving me kind of advice, like take it easy, and stuff I do know, but it feels good that somebody that knows what they're doing is walking over and saying, "I'm gonna take it easy on my first run. You should take it easy on your first run." Like, yeah, I'm there.
But on race day, you get one run, right?
Yes, race day is the only day you really get to put everything together, because even on your practice days when you're running those sections, there's little parts of those sections that are meant for like slowing down and turning around. So you never really get to feel the whole course until race day.
Right. And how much of the course did you get through before the cart stopped
I
carting?
was I was almost there. I think I was like the first loser. I think I got the
Oh,
furthest. So I broke down at Bottomless Pit, which I believe is like 1 or 2.5 miles from the finish.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, I was really close. Like I really thought I was gonna make it. It was such a shock.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching their stream, and I was like, "Oh, come on, come on!" And you had kind of alluded that it wasn't the easiest of weeks going in, and so I think you properly limited expectations. But then when you got going, I was like, okay, this probably won't be a winning run, but you're going to learn a lot and all of that. And then it stopped working. I was like, oh no.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, last year I kept telling everybody, I just want to make it to the top. I just
Right.
want to make it to the top. Well, I did. I made it to the top section. So this year I'm telling everybody, I want to take a checkered at the summit,
Yeah.
because I can take a checkered at Devils if they close the top, but I want to finish the whole race at the summit, get my donut, get my lunch, and just hang out for the rest of the day.
Okay.
But I am, oh, I hope so. I hope
I love
so.
it. I love it. Let me do this. Let me thank the sponsors here. You know how that goes. And then I will come back and I want to talk a little bit about the preps for this year. So stay with me for a second. All right. Of course, it takes a bunch of people to help me do this, and they're awesome, and I love my partners. And the first of which, of course, it's Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. RaceSchool.com is a place out here in Southern California where you could get your competition license for SCCA, as well as a bunch of other stuff. They've got defensive driving schools, teen safety schools, a bunch of other great stuff, track days, some incredibly talented instructors, and a really cool instructing system that I haven't heard other schools do, and it's really worth checking it out, raceschool.com. Of course, let's see, who's going to pop up next year? I don't remember. I'm going to probably go out of order, and I'm sorry about that. Let's see. We've got Solar Performance Specialties, Dave and his crew. They're all over the country this time of the year doing the Solo National Tour. They're at most of the events. And then, of course, they are also at the Solo Nationals in Lincoln in September. And they are always fantastic and helpful. And when I was soloing a car, I would go to them all the time for everything I need. Not quite sure what I'm going to do this year because, of course, my solo car was totaled in a street wreck. But that's a different story for a different podcast. But anyway, check those folks out. Solar Performance Specialties, great people. William R. Panterick and Associates. Dave Panterick, one of our SCCA racers, GT1 driver, Spec MX5 driver. He is a guy who is a great financial planner. And if you need to talk about your retirement or other investments, give him a call. Check him out as well. And then, of course, Ray Esports, the official sim racing league of Inside the SCCA. I love what Stevie Ray does. And it's they've got great little leagues on Tuesday nights and Saturdays and Sundays. If you want to race with a bunch of SCCA racers, that's a great place to do it. All right, let us get back to talking with Ryan Cheek here. She's getting ready to do her second Pikes Peak. So the one thing we didn't talk about yet is you and the fitness. I know you were all not concerned about it, but it was something you really focused on last year. What did you find out in your time on the mountain about your preps last year as far as the fitness part of this goes?
I kind of learned that it's more the long game. Like get your sleep before race week, and try to take care of yourself. Make sure that you're eating and drinking a lot of water, but getting that rest and keeping that mental rest. Like you can't worry about everything. You have to let your team take care of some things. You can't. I'm a mama bear. I'm a mom of two, so my household is what's going on. I want to know everything that's going on. I'm worrying about 30 things at once. But on race week and doing the race stuff is you got to let it go. You really just got to focus on maintaining your mental health and drinking and eating. Remember to drink and eat.
Yep.
That's the one thing that kind of I struggled with last year.
Got it. How is the altitude once you started practicing on the higher part of the mountain? Any issues there?
I didn't have any, so I do run the oxygen. So
Okay.
I wear the oxygen. They recommend it, and I recommend it. It's a lot, all that adrenaline, your blood's pumping, and the oxygen just makes you feel normal.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't even make you feel like Superwoman. You just feel kind of normal.
Very cool. So in that regard, any changes this year on your preps personally?
Actually, yeah. This year I am really just trying to stay very relaxed. The more relaxed that I am, the happier that I am, the more that I'm focusing on having fun instead of stressing, the better mental and the better that I'm gonna do. So it is a lot more of kind of enjoy this vacation. My husband and I are out here a week early, alone, no kids, no worries. So just really kind of treating it like a mini vacation and just mentally preparing in a good way, like
Yeah.
relaxed and happy and fun instead of stressed and worried and terrified.
I think you spent a week out ahead of time last year too, right?
I did.
How important is that to acclimate to the altitude? Does that help a lot?
I feel like it helps immensely for me. I thought I was a big girl coming from the Appalachian Mountains, But, our highest peak is Mount Mitchell at 6,600 feet, and Colorado Springs is like 6,000 feet. So, it's a really big difference. Oddly enough, this year coming back out, the elevation hasn't affected me as much as it has in the years past.
Okay.
But this year I drove out. So I don't know if that had
Hmm.
something to do with it, but I'm feeling a lot better. Driving up to the peak didn't affect me as much as it has in the past. So, doing it in a regular streetcar. So I'm feeling really good about it this year.
Does going up in a streetcar help just kind of get an idea of where the course goes?
I think so. Not only where it goes. So I do have a sim rig that I practice and kind of learn most of the turns. But going up in a streetcar, seeing the road firsthand, and it's traffic, it's a it's like a tourist attraction. So going up at slower speeds really gives me the opportunity to kind of focus on where bumps are, really looking at, you know, visualizing the turn, visualizing how I would take that turn and just slowing everything down. I think it's as close as you can get to a track walk, you
Right.
know, driving up Pikes Peak at 25, 30 miles an hour, like getting a good look at everything. I think it's very, very important. It helps immensely.
Why don't you walk it?
I'm not up for 12 and a half miles. I'm not that kind of fitness. I'm more like I want to fit this burger in my mouth.
I love it.
I'm a different kind of fitness girl.
That's good. That's good. All right. How about the car? What, other than the motor and the fuel starvation, was there anything else you guys learned last year that you are changing some things, or any other ideas for this year?
We were very fortunate to go down to Fuel Tech headquarters in Georgia a few months ago, and they really helped dial the cart in. We changed injectors, we added a fuel pump, auxiliary stuff. Forgive me if I say the wrong thing. I am just the driver. But there's been so much. We moved a oxygen sensor, and then they tuned it in. I mean, I had never heard the cart run like it did until after they tuned it and did all this wonderful stuff. And that's no that's no shade at anyone. It's just
Yeah.
trial and error with adding a turbo to a
Right.
naturally aspirated engine, and not knowing turbos or tunes, and just doing what you have with what you can, the connections that you have. So, but this year, having Fuel Tech wanting to help and really getting involved and really helping sort the cart has been amazing.
Now, last year you didn't really get the cart until just before Pikes Peak, right? Were you able to keep the
Yeah.
cart and then play with it, practice throughout the year this year, or end of last year and this year?
Yeah, so this year has been a lot different. Last year, American Cross Cart would bring the cart to events, and it was naturally aspirated for most of the beginning of the year. We didn't put a turbo on it until like May of last year, and they would bring it to all the events. This year, I got the cart, and it's been in my garage since early, I think it was January or February, and I've been able to do autocrosses with it. Obviously, it had a new motor and a turbo back on it, and it had a pretty decent tune on it, and it was running fairly well. And we were pulling data logs, but yeah, it's been in my garage all year, and I've been able to get a lot more seat time. It's been really great.
Right. Seat time's king, isn't it?
I think so. I think people don't realize how great a autocross or solo event can be just for anything. Feel that car at the edge, at 30 or 50 miles an hour.
Right.
You don't have to do it at 120.
Last year the goal was to get to the top. This year, is that the same goal, or is the goal even a little bit bigger?
The goal is to take a checkered at the summit. Very specific. And it is a little weird because in your rookie year, you get to be like, oh, I'm a rookie. It's my first time coming back as a second year competitor. It puts some kind of weird pressure, and I And I'm still working through that because I feel like a rookie still. I think maybe in my 10th year, I might not feel like a rookie, but there is a little bit more pressure because you have seen it. You do know what to expect. And honestly, the cart is running so well. I don't have any excuses. It's all the driver now.
Yeah. How much of the additional pressure though is offset by it's your second year, so you don't have there's far fewer unknowns this year than there were last year.
So that really does help. Like I feel so much more prepared, which lends itself to greater performance as a driver and as a car and finishing the race at finishing and then also finishing it at a decent pace for sure. Um, I'm really lucky though. My team, the cart owner, American Cross Kart, they don't put a ton of pressure. They're not saying you have to qualify here and you have to win this and you have to set a record. They're not in for that. They are here for the journey and the fun and developing this cart for sure.
SCCA Hill Climb, is that split up into are there ladies classes?
No,
Okay.
no, the cars don't know.
I know. Well, I know that. Um, so is there one thing last year that just really caught you off guard? Is there one thing that you just didn't really expect or found that was either weird, cool, different, just something really unusual?
I was really taken back by the weather at Devil's Playground on the upper section because the one day that I was assigned to practice there, it was horrible. And they did let us do like a parade lap up because rookies have to drive every section, no matter the weather. They have to drive every section if they
Right.
want to race on race day. So I knew the weather was going to be unpredictable, but I had never thought the weather could be that bad.
Okay.
And that is something that sits with me as well because the mountain changes all day. I've been here for 5 days and I've watched storms roll over and completely cover the entire mountain in clouds. And that is that's a racing condition. I just am still it's still sitting with me, but I didn't know that that could happen when I came out here last year.
So are there years when the top of the mountain is the weather's not good enough to race all the way to the summit?
There have been, yes,
Okay.
and they will close the upper section and throw a checkered at Devil's Playground. So that is why my mantra is I need to take a checkered at the summit because I
Got it.
want good weather and I want to take a checkered.
Now we're talking, what is this, about 13, 12 days before the race. It's too early to really have a look at the weather, right?
I think so, and honestly, it's so unpredictable. And this year has been a little more rainy and stormy than it has been in past years. So, yeah, we're just praying for sunshine and rainbows.
Yep. So how can we watch?
So it will be live streamed on YouTube. I believe it is Pikes Peak Attractions channel. And then it will also be on Racers Network. I believe that's the one.
Okay.
So there will be multiple ways to tune in.
I will make sure I put all of those links in the show notes. Are you going to be putting up social media posts all week? Where do we find you in particular?
Yes. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So everything is just Ryan Cheek Racing. If you want to keep up with me, I do stories, I do posts. I do different posts on Instagram and Facebook. So there's a little bit of diversity there, but you can always keep up with me in my stories.
Awesome. You know what happens next. This is when you get to thank all the people that help get you to Pikes Peak, hopefully to the summit on race day. Go for it.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian. Of course, I have to give a huge shout out to Racing for ALS, to Fuel Tech, to Faster Skunk Racing, Big Shot Stickers, Church's Speed. I am gonna mess this up. I know I am. Definitely shout out to my friends back in North Carolina, Tire Connection Pros, Hawk Performance, Charlotte Custom Stone, Trinity Farms Hemp Company. I am definitely reading off my list here. There's so many people that help me, and I am gonna forget so many people. And definitely a huge shout out to Valley Hope, which is our new nonprofit for Western North Carolina recovering from Hurricane Helene.
Awesome. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
And we will be watching. And the week after it's done, I will fill everybody in who didn't watch. But you should be watching because it's one of the coolest races in all of motorsports. I was going to say in North America, but it is right up there with the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, the Rolex 24. It is that level of hill climb event, and I'm so excited that you get to be part of it.
Thank you. I am still pinching myself. I can't believe I'm here for a second year. I'm living the dream.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Thank
All right.
you.
That's going to do it for another episode of Inside the SCCA. If you want to follow, and of course, I just lost my script. Thank you. Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the RacingWire Podcast Network so you won't miss an episode. Leave a comment especially if it's a good one. Follow us on social media. It is at Race Announcer. Have yourself a great week. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Bielanski. Stay safe and go play with cars.